lotuses blossom. At the very outset, I would like to congratulate Dharwad Katte, Dharwad, Adivasi Sri Maharshi Valmiki University Raichur, JSS College Dharwad and Peter Lang, Switzerland. My most revered teachers, learned colleagues. I feel more than delighted for having been invited to this two-day international conference on civilizational literature, texts, traditions, transcultural dialogues across civilization. I think it's very apt and suggestive and a very vast area. The very word itself is enough. Civilizational literature, it will take, in my opinion, not less than a month of deliberation and discussion. Because the world literature has such a vast body that cannot be covered in 2 days. But as one of the young participants pointed out, that we are running out of patience. Where is the time? Where is the time? The world is not enough. I need 200 years to describe each your eyes, and when I finally come to your heart, I need 35,000 years to express. They have not enough time to describe the beauty of a lady, but we cannot describe our paper. There is no enough time and space. Well, overall, 7 speakers spoke from this podium. Again, why it is 7? Why it is not 8? It is just a coincidence, because number 7 is a number of completeness according to Babylonian mathematicians. That is why we have all 7 in the world. 7 wonders of the world, 7 continents, 7 colors in rainbow, 7 notes in music, and 7 steps around the holy fire. When we fight with our wife or with the husband, we say that because number 7 is a number of completeness according to Babylonian mathematicians, but for Indians it is not the number of completeness. For us, number 18 is the number of completeness according to our civilizational perceptions. Number 18 is the number of completeness. One of the persons by name Dodmani spoke on Bhagavad Gita, that is Karma Yoga, which consists of 18 chapters. Bhagavad Gita consists of 18 chapters. As the battle of Kurukshetra takes for 18 days, and Ayyappa's temple has 18 steps. In that sense, number 18, we have got 18 Puranas to mention. Number 18 is a number of completeness for Indians, not for the Babylonians. Babylonians are the greatest mathematicians. We have to accept Babylonians as greatest mathematicians. It doesn't mean that we were not the mathematicians. We were also mathematicians, but not as great as Babylonians. We have to, one of the earliest civilizations in the world. When you go into the word civilization, we are not sure when we exactly civilized. Some of the historians and archaeologists, they say that we got civilized 7,000 years ago, 8,000 years ago, 6,000 BC, 7,000 BC. But there was a recent discovery made in Göbekli Tepe in Turkey in the year 1994, and it was reopened in 2002. That it dates back, when the carbon dating is done and the monuments which are recovered, it says that our civilization goes back to 12,000 BC. Still research is going on. We are being unearthing, and we are finding civilization and its roots. And these are the two very complex words, civilization and culture. These are the two difficult and complex words which cannot be encompassed in single definition. Every country has got its own narratives, its own definitions. It assigns its meaning to culture and civilization. We say that, scientists say that we humans started our journey from Africa, somewhere in Africa, 3 lakhs years ago. And we got civilized just 12,000 years, 6,000 years, which is just a blink of an eye in comparison with when humans started walking upright. That is what Darwin says in his theory of evolution. And some other scientists came and they argued. In the 19th century, Darwin was considered as one of the greatest scientists, and he cracked how the humans started, how humans evolved, how the species evolved. But again, a band of scientists, they came, then they started arguing that Darwin is wrong. They are called as conspiratory theorists. They are called as conspiratory scientists. They started asking questions. They started asking question to Darwin. Even Darwin also believed in gods. Who created the God? Whether we created the God or God created us. The question is still unanswered. And some scientists and explorers, they are called as conspiratory theorists. One particular scientist who died recently, 4 months ago, Andrew Kondokin, has written 2 books. One is Eyes of the Sphinx and The Chariots of the Gods. If you read The Chariots of the Gods, which exists in 271 pages, there he asks 171 questions. Who is God? Where did the God come from? Will he return? Where did he go? We have no answers. He asks such scientific questions that he argues that humans did not evolve on the earth, rather we were introduced, but he was silenced. The Childress, another scientist, there is a group of scientists, they came a program called Ancient Aliens. There they discovered the technology, they put their arguments even more beautifully than Darwin, but it was not accepted because Darwin was a British man. Darwin was a Christian. He believed in Christianity. And that is why Darwin is accepted, not other scientists. They are labeled as conspiratory theorists because they speak against Christ. He gives an example of Pumapunku. If you browse net, you come across a place called Pumapunku. The technology used by the ancient civilization cannot be reproduced by any modern technology. There the scientists argue that either the technology was outer space or we have lost the technology. The civilization is always judged on the basis of the technology, the advancement, material advancement, not the spiritual advancement. We don't go for the spiritual advancement. When we speak of civilization, we only look at the material advancement, not the spiritual and other advancements. And I congratulate that all the 7 speakers or 7 presenters beautifully covered the topics. First to speak was Yogeshri madam. Yagneshri madam. Okay, what is there in the name? If you call Rose by some other name, it still smells the same. She spoke on Tamil literature. I consider Tamil literature and Tamil language and Tamil people are the most intellectual southern people, or what called Dravidians, if you are allowed, because the contribution of Tamilians to the development of Karnataka and Karnataka literature, film industry is rather very major. And if you take the example of R.K. Narayan, from Tamil Nadu, came to Karnataka, settled and wrote wonderful, and he became our man. So now we have to cross the boundaries. We have to bring down the walls and all. And she pointed out that there are 26 cantos, and she spoke mainly on economic linguistics. And she beautifully pointed out that language is always arbitrary. The language is always arbitrary. The meaning is assigned to the words on the basis of the economic status of a person. Who speaks the word is important, then the mere words, they don't carry any meaning. They carry meaning when a man in power speaks. Otherwise, words have no meaning at all. And she beautifully spoke of a common woman and widowhood, suffering of a widowhood. And at this point, we have to come out of it, and we have to come out with our own narratives. And I congratulate the madam for wonderfully bringing out that Tamil epic poem to this seminar. The second to speak was Surabhi Suresh, am I right? A wonderful student. She spoke on melody, okay, myth melody. Yeah, myth melody, civilizational memory, and Krishna-centric raga bandis, of which we have little knowledge. We have little knowledge of music. Okay, she spoke on music, but nonetheless, what AIDS rightly points out that spiritus mundi, or collective consciousness. Collective consciousness comes not just from literature or something; it also comes from music also. Okay, and spiritus mundi, I congratulate Surabhi Suresh. The next was Anand Kattimani, who spoke beautifully on tribal literature. Tribal literature is an emerging literature, and here I congratulate Karnataka University Dharwad for having introduced tribal literature as one of the papers. Am I right? It's been prescribed for the 4th semester masters in English.
Yeah,
am I right?
KUD and RCU also.
RCU also. I don't know about RCU.
RCU.
Because these days I am teaching for postgraduate students in my college, and I recently found that is a wonderful thing, because we have to now, it is time, literature should enter into the other parts, remote parts, inaccessible parts, so far which has not reached, and we have to listen to their narratives. And food always plays a very important role, at least in Indian context. We decide our everything. You decide a person by their food habit. We always say that you are a vegetarian, you are a non-vegetarian, you are a vegan. I don't know who is a vegan. Now they have come up with vegan. Vegan means they abstain from milk product. Am I right? No animal product and all. So they want to be vegan. Okay, they want to vegan. How the vegans grow the food? I wonder. Where do they get the food? They get the food from the farm. The farm is fenced so that no animal should come. How about the pests? They come from different. They spray.
We have to conclude the whole session by 11:45.
Yeah, I'll just.
I request you.
Yeah. And it is no, to go vegan. I wonder to this point, but I say that when it comes to food plays very important role. And I quote and I don't unquote that some people kill the cow to eat. Some people kill the cow to eat. Some people keep the cow alive to eat. Some people keep it alive.
But Lord Kate respects cow and cow.
Yeah, that's what. No, I am respecting. I am not disrespecting. This is what is happening in our civilization. I am pointing it out. Some people kill it to eat. Some people keep it alive to eat. Because we eat milk and all, which is meant for their cows, not for humans. I am not disrespecting. I am just pointing.
No. I am making the contestant clear.
Yeah. I am respect. I respect it. Then Shilpa Adur, my bosom friend, she spoke on Dark Horse No Terror, okay, a feministic narrative of Saru, the protagonist. Okay, the protagonist represents only one community. She doesn't represent the entire human community, because that now there is a time for sectionality. The problem of one woman is not the problem of other. The problem of a white woman is not the problem of a black woman. The problem of a high caste woman is not the problem of low caste woman. What you call other caste, I should say that. And their question came that my revered teacher Shamla Nagaratnakar pointed out that there must be men's studies. Okay, we must live in a perfect harmony. Okay, because these are the two eyes of the society. Okay, if one is harmed, the other is also harmed. And I quote, and I don't quote, I don't unquote Golding, that all the women in the world are fools. All the women in the world are fools to think that they are equal to men. They are always above men. They are always above men. If you give a woman a grocery, she will give you food. If you give her a house, she will give you a home, sweet home. If you give her a smile, she will give you her heart. If you give her a sperm, she will give you a baby. Be careful. Whatever you give to a woman, she has the ability of multiplying it. If you give her a shit, be ready to receive a pile of shit. I quote of Golding. In this sense, a woman should not think that she is equal to a man. She is always above a man. Then Dodmani spoke of Bhagavad Gita, okay, spiritualism, okay, religion and all. Of course, I wanted to say something, but I don't want to offend. Then Srinivas spoke of colonial and the condition of Banjaras, okay, during the post-colonial and colonial period. Then Akshay Rade, he beautifully quoted the novel from Karnataka, and there he beautifully pointed out that a strange case of Billy Viswas of Arun Joshi, and there Arun Joshi says through a character called Billy doesn't like this civilization. Okay, he just wants to vanish from here. And one more point, that Billy was also influenced by. Okay, yeah, thank you. And he spoke of Vasudeva Kutumbakam and all. Now we have to come to the point that the whole universe is our world, okay? And in that sense, I thank all of you. I thank Dharwad Kande. I thank JSS College for having invited me. Thank you very much.
You spoke well.
Thank you,
Next time
sir.
we'll give you 1 hour time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your wonderful comments. Now I request Surekha ma'am to honor the chair.
Silpa.
Surekha Arivan madam, please.
Wait.
Thank you everyone. Now this session is over, and I hand over this podium to Sarah Moniz for the next session.
Department of English. Department of English. Let me introduce the chair first. Dr. Shilpa Adur is an assistant professor at JSS College, Dharwad. She has published over 10 articles in national and international journals. She has completed a Masters of Arts in English, as well as a Masters of Arts in Sociology. She has over 13 years of experience, and she's also a creative writer who writes poems as well as short stories. We are honored to have you as the chair today for this session, ma'am. I request you to please take the seat on the desk.
Madam, you have 1 hour time at your disposal. I don't know how you do it. You please clarify for me.
Fine, sir. And yeah, give them directions to adhere to the time. Start.
I will read out the names of the paper presenters first. 13 paper presenters, starting with Sabuj Biswas, P. Kusma, Rajashri Subhash, Manjula S. Kusugal, Megha Patil, Professor Rita Banagar, Miss Sharon Rose, Rajesh Gauleti Navar, Amar Harsha Dotihal, Dr. Sharanappa Chalavadi, Nidish Mantur, Jayashri GS, and Nikita S. Patil. I request the presenters to take your seats in front of the in the front seats. Please come forward. Each presenter will be given 4 plus 1 minutes. I request you to please adhere to the time.
And you can take questions only at the end.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, sir. You also.
Questions will be asked at the end of all presentations. Okay. Okay. Any other presenters whose names are not on the list and are present here? Okay, we will begin with the first paper presenter now. Sabuj Biswas. Sabuj Biswas will be presenting his paper titled The Listening Crisis, Vyasa's Lament and the Ethics of Digital Conversation. The next presenter will be P. Kusuma. Sabuj Biswas, over to you.
Good morning to everyone. So, the title of my paper is Listening Crisis, Vyasa's Lament and the Ethics of Digital Conversation. So, keeping in mind the paucity of time, I'll just directly go through the paper. So, basically, I argue in this paper that contemporary digital public sphere is structurally deaf. Speech continues to proliferate, but the ethical discipline to attentive reception has largely collapsed. To understand this condition, I turn to classical Indian thought, particularly the Chandogya Upanishad and Mahabharata. I turn to Mahabharata and Chandogya Upanishad as they approach communication not as a neutral exchange of information, but as an ethical activity embedded within the moral order of the cosmos. The Upanishadic understanding of speech establishes the most significance of language. The Mahabharata then dramatizes these consequences that follow when listening disappears. This epic contains two moments that illuminate the ethical structure of communication with unusual clarity. The first is the famous lament attributed to Vyasa, who declares that he raises his arms and cries out, yet no one listens to him. The second one is the philosophical debate between the wandering ascetic Sulabha and the philosopher King Janaka, and this section appears in the Moksha Dharma part in Shantipada. So, in the Upanishadic tradition, speech is not treated as a neutral instrument. The Chandogya Upanishad presents speech or Vak as intimately bound to the human person. Words are not external tools used by a detached individual. They express the interior conditions of the self because speech emerges from the person. It carries moral significance. Within this framework, language participates in the domain of truth and justice. To speak truthfully is not simply to convey accurate information. It is to align speech with dharma, the moral order that sustains both society and the cosmos. Speech therefore demands discipline. Words must be measured, purposeful, and oriented towards the goal. And so the first example that I take, that's Vyasa's lament. The Mahabharata intensifies this insight through a moment of profound existential despair. Near the end of this epic, in the Swargadavan Parva, the sage Vyasa raises his arms and cries out to humanity, Urdhavaho Dhamesha Nacha Kashyap Sranoti Nacha Sama. The verse is often translated in a simple yet haunting manner. With raised arms, I cried out aloud, but no one listens to me. This declaration appears within the concluding moments of the epic. After the devastation of the Kurukshetra war, the earth has been emptied of its warriors, families are shattered, kingdoms are broken, and the social order lies in ruins. In this moment of civilizational exhaustion, the sage does not celebrate victory. Instead, he laments the futility of moral destruction. The lament must be read carefully. Vyasa does not complain that the truth is unavailable or truth is gone, but he does not simply claim that speech has been disappeared, or on the contrary, he actually argues that speaks with urgency and clarity. The problem lies elsewhere. The audience no longer listens to the speaker. Within this framework, the failure of listening becomes a civilizational crisis. When listening disappears, wisdom cannot be transferred from one generation to the next. Ethical instructions loses the audience. Truth becomes powerless because it cannot enter the consciousness of those who need it. And the next instance, this is Sulava Janaka dialogue. This encounters occurs within the Moksha Dharma section of Shanti Parva. King Janaka is widely celebrated as in Indian philosophy as a ruler who has attained Vidya status as a spiritual insight while remaining active in worldly affairs. Sulava, a wandering female ascetic and philosopher, visits his court in order to test the authenticity of his claims. Using yogic discipline, she enters the king's consciousness and examines his mental state. Janaka reacts with irritation and suspicion. Instead of responding with philosophical composure, he begins to attack her character. He questions her social status, criticizes her behavior, and implies that her actions violate accepted norms. But Sulava begins with outlining the structural elements that a legitimate argument must possess. Speech must display clarity, logical order, and purpose. It must avoid harshness, confusion, and unnecessary excesses. Words must communicate meaning rather than obscure it. A responsible speaker must present both their own position and the opposing view with accuracy and fairness to it. Sulava does not stop with formal structure. He also examines the psychological conditions that make dialogue possible. According to her analysis, the mind of the speaker and the listener must be free from certain corrosive emotions that distort their judgment. She identifies several intellectual blemishes that corrupt communication. These include despair, anger, fear, greed, pride, and misplaced sentiments. Janaka's conduct provides a perfect illustration for these defects. His irritation reveals anger. His appeal to social status reveals pride. His suspicion of Sulava's intentions reflects fear. Because his mind is clouded by these emotions, he cannot properly hear what she says. His failure is therefore not merely rhetorical, it is ethical. So, in classical Indian thought, listening or Shravana is not a passive act, it's active. It represents the first stage of a longer epistemic process. Knowledge begins with attentive reception. It then proceeds to reflection and then contemplation. Without careful listening, the entire chain of understanding collapses. Listening therefore requires discipline. The listener must temporarily suspend ego, prejudice, and emotional reactions. Only under such conditions can only the meaning of any other person's words become understandable. The Mahabharata implies a triadic structure of communication. First the speaker, then the message itself, and then the listener, the Shrota. In this digital communication operates within what is mostly described as attention economy. In this environment, human attention becomes a scarce and valuable resource. Platforms compete to capture and retain this resource through a constant stimulation. Notifications, algorithmic feeds, and rapid streams of content fragments the user's concentration. So in conclusion, the digital public sphere reproduces the very condition that is described by Vyasa. Voices fill the space, yes, capacity to listen is not there. Communication becomes a collection of parallel monologues rather than a shared search for the truth.
Questions will be asked at the end of the session. The bell is a notification for you to conclude. I request all the speakers to please adhere to the time. The second, Chandrasekhar Kambar's Shiva's Drum.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to present a paper on translating myth, linguistic, and cultural challenges in the English translation of Chandrasekhar Kambar's Shiva's Drum, which is translated by Professor Krishna Manvalli. And I'm going to analyze the nuances and the challenges in translating a myth which is originally composed and written by Jnanapith awardee Chandrasekhar Kambar. And this study examines how translators negotiate these multifaceted challenges, analyzing specific translation strategies employed in rendering mythological content, evaluating losses and gains in the transfer process, and considering the broader implications for post-colonial translation theory. By focusing on Shiva's Drum, this research contributes to ongoing discussions about translating sacred and mythological texts in an increasingly globalized literary landscape. Understanding this cultural substrate is essential to translators attempting to render the text into English, as the novel operates within a complex web of religious, social, and performative traditions that may be unfamiliar to Western readers. Kambar's genius lies in his integration of Puranic and folk traditions to create a narrative that speaks simultaneously to multiple audiences. Kambar subverts and reimagines these narratives through folk perspectives, giving voice to marginalized communities whose old traditions often present alternate versions of mainstream myths. Coming to the challenges which arise and which are dealt with in the translation of the text, the linguistic texture of Shiva's Drum presents formidable challenges for translators, beginning with the fundamental problem of untranslatable concepts. Terms like dharma, bhakti, karma, and moksha carry philosophical and theological freight that cannot be adequately conveyed through English equivalents, while duty, devotion, action, and liberation often approximate meanings. They lack the cultural resonance and semantic complexity of Sanskrit Kannada originals. Register variation and dialect representation constitute another layer of complexity. Kambar employs different speech registers to indicate caste positions, educational backgrounds, and regional identities. Brahmin characters may use Sanskritized Kannada, while lower caste characters speak in more colloquial dialects with distinct vocabulary and grammatical features. And in rendering these to English is quite a feat. Last bit of it is a reference to Lawrence Venetti's influential distinction between domestication and foreignization, providing a useful framework of analyzing translation choices in Shiva's Drum. Foreignization is nothing but taking the host culture to the guest culture, or the new one, the translated language, and domestication is the vice versa of it. So this theoretical dichotomy works very much in the translation of Kambar's work, which is a seminal one. I conclude my presentation with these closing statements. Translating Chandrasekhar Kambar's Shiva's Drum from Kannada to English exemplifies the multidimensional challenges inherent in cross-cultural literary translation, particularly when dealing with mythological and sacred narratives, as regional literatures increasingly circulate globally through English translation. sustained attention to translation theory and practice becomes essential for scholars, readers, translators committed to equitable and respectful literary cosmopolitanism. Thank you, one and all. Thank you.
Thank you.